Hi, my name is Robert Chelle with Chelle Law, and I'm an attorney that assists dental associates with employment contract and independent contractor agreement issues. Today I'm going to talk about dental associate productivity rules. So what are some things you need to think about if you're on a contract that's based on percentage of collections, and then some things to make certain that are either in the contract or you want to avoid or change if the language is in the contract. So first, what's a general compensation structure when you're paid on collections? Very simple. For whatever you personally perform and the practice collects, you would get a percentage of it. If you're just doing kind of general bread and butter dentistry, somewhere between 30 to 35% would be a standard amount. And then you also have to take into account that they'll generally take out a percentage of lab fees as well. Now, for some people, it's not that big of a deal who aren't doing kind of lab intensive work. Others, obviously, it is. A standard way of doing it would be if, let's say, you have a 35% collections percentage, then they would say you cover 35% of the lab fees as well. That'd be a normal way of doing it. All right, so let's talk about some red flags. One, and this is the most important part. If you have a collections-based agreement and it states that all compensation ends at the date of termination, you're leaving a lot of money on the table, and let me explain. So the average accounts receivable cycle for an insurance claim is somewhere between 30 to 60 days. 60 would be on the high side. Some practices are very efficient and can be paid very quickly, and others it just takes a while. It kind of depends upon the insurance company and where you are in the country. But let's just say, for example, it's a 45-day average return on an insurance claim. So if you were to give notice, and maybe it's a 60 or 90-day notice, and then let's say you're working your last month there. Well, if the practice doesn't collect on average any of your services for 45 days, well, you just worked for free for the last month. So you want to make absolutely certain that there's language in the contract that states you will get all of the percentage of collections after the date of termination, minimum 90 days. All right, so a definition of what collections actually means or how they're calculating it is also important. Some places it'll just say you have adjusted production or adjusted collections. There's many different ways of defining it, although generally it's accepted. It's whatever the practice takes in based upon your services. But you want a definition and make sure they're not taking out more than you were expecting. And then also, what is considered your services? Sometimes practices will say that you will get a percentage of whatever the hygienist did or the dental assistant. It just depends. And so having a clear definition of what is collections and then what you're going to get credit for is certainly important as well. Payment timing. So if you are on just a percentage of collections, how are you going to get paid? Are you going to have a standard draw? So let's just say they'll say, all right, you're going to, at a minimum, we're going to give you $10,000 a month. And then at the end of the month, we'll do a reconciliation. And so whatever, amount over what we paid out in your base salary, you would get the percentage of. You want to make certain you're completely understanding of, all right, if I have a draw, is there going to be a negative accrual? And then how frequent are they going to do a reconciliation? And then last, sometimes they'll do a threshold. So for instance, they'll say, okay, any amount over what we paid out in your base salary. So once again, if you had $120,000 guaranteed base salary, they may say, all right, well, we'll give you a percentage of anything that you bring in over that amount. That's kind of a standard way of doing it as well. But I find most dental practices will do either a daily rate, that way they don't have to pay time off, or if it's just purely on collections, they generally won't pay time off either. Or they'll do a hybrid where they'll say you'll make the greater of either a daily rate or the percentage of collections. Now, last thing, you shouldn't go on pure collections immediately. It takes a while to ramp a practice up, and if there is negative accrual in your contract, it's most likely going to happen. It just takes time for someone to get used to the structure of the office, the techs, the hygienist, the workflow, being efficient. I mean, it's just kind of human nature to start off a little slower while you're figuring things out and then ramp up. But you want a guaranteed amount, either guaranteed daily rate or a guaranteed salary for the first, at least 6 months, ideally a year, but also have the opportunity to profit if you do exceed whatever your production was via the collections. All right, that's a little bit about dental associate productivity. If you have any questions about your employment contract or independent contractor agreement, feel free to contact my law firm at the information listed below in the description. And I appreciate you watching the video. All right, thanks. Take care.